How about this? A summer edition of the Matt Barrie Show here on the ESPN College Football YouTube channel, where we're going to get into the upcoming season with some of the rising stars in the sport. And for anyone who watches the show knows my connection to Arizona State, because that's where I went to college. So who better to start off this series than with Arizona State quarterback Sam Leavitt, who is joining us now. First of all, Sam, thank you for making time. How has the offseason been?
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. It's going good so far. May is just a time to, really focus on what you need. You go to your own trainers, take some time off, go on a little trip. So I was able to do all three of those things, and now just ready to go back to work and lock in with my guys.
Yeah. So school is probably out already, right? You guys are out of school?
Yeah, summer classes just started, but
Okay. So what will you do from now? I mean, you'll go home for a bit. How do you spend your summer?
that was May. So we're done now. We're back into ball. So I went back to Oregon and ran a youth camp out there. And I went on a little trip with my friend. And now it's just I was out here before that, just training, hanging out, playing some golf. And so from now on, it's just locked in and full go.
How's the golf game? How good are you at golf?
I'm getting better.
All
I'm
right.
not elite. I'm not elite yet, but on the way there.
There's time to be an elite golfer. Every NFL quarterback finds time to play golf in the offseason. So I trust that after this year, wherever your endeavors take you, you'll find a way. Like, what's not good? Like, people's evaluations of good are different than everybody else.
What's not good?
No, like, what's your score? Like, what are we dealing with here? Is 78 not good for you? Like, what are we dealing with?
I'm not shooting 78. I'm probably shooting low 80s right now.
Okay. All right. Look, that's
so
competitive.
solid, but
That's it. That's it. Solid. Make a couple extra putts. You'll be in the 70s.
Yeah,
Sam, what I find interesting is this time last year, everybody was talking about the train wreck that is Arizona State football and everything that happened in the past and everything that Coach Dillingham was going to have to change. Picked dead last by the Big 12 media, picked last by a lot of national media, just talking about the program overall. And not only did you throw that in everyone's faces, you win the Big 12 championship. You make the college football playoff in one of the all-time great college football games against Texas. And now the expectations are completely different. How has it been different from where we were last year to where you sit now?
Yeah, I mean, everything's changed, recruiting, how the media's talking to us, how we have to, view this off season. And, it's going to be a different approach for sure. Last year was, get people to believe in us. And this year, we got to kind of limit what we're taking in and focus on what we got to do every single day. And that's going to be the biggest key to our success this year, is just seeing, how much we can really lock in on ourselves every single day, day in and day out, and not worry about what other people say.
What I find interesting too with you is you transfer in from Michigan State. You were out there for a year. There was the whole quarterback situation at ASU. Jaden Rashada was still there. There was an open battle in camp. And Sam, candidly, coming to Tempe, you were also a relative unknown coming into the season. And then little by little, we called your game week 3 on Thursday night against Texas State. And every single week, there seemed to be improvement to where now you're being mentioned as a sleeper Heisman Trophy candidate. How has that adjustment gone from you going from a relative unknown to Big 12 freshman of the year and now someone people are looking at as a Heisman candidate and NFL quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I'll sit back and really think about it. It's crazy from that perspective, but it's the same. It's what I believed in myself since day one. It's just other people are waking up to it now, where I finally proved it on some scale. So it doesn't change how I view myself, but it definitely makes me understand how other people are going to view me, and then how I have to look to the public eye and everything like that.
What brought you to Arizona State?
It was really just Coach Dillingham and Coach Arroyo. Just talking to them schematically, their passion for the game, their track record, how they view me in the offense and how they view me as a player and a leader, and the intangibles that they liked about my game. And it was really impressive what they had to say, and everything that they would say, just drew me in more and more, and everything like that. So, I got here and it was the best situation I could ask for.
I mean, plus, Sam, the weather's perfect. The scenery at Arizona State is good. I can imagine, or I at least hope, something about Tempe and the campus drew you in as well.
Yeah, honestly, at first I was, I was a little hesitant because of, everybody always talks about the party life, this that, and third, and
Yeah.
you got so many distractions. It honestly made me not want to come here and get distracted from football. But once you get here and, you understand what it is and you just lock in on yourself and then you have everything you want to do. You have a great dinner setting in Old Town and, you can go play golf and you have a bunch of connections out here. So, you get your work in and then you're living in, such a pretty state and, great weather year round. And honestly, I'll definitely have a spot here in my off seasons when I'm older and everything like that. So, Arizona is one of my home places now.
Yeah, I mean, I was born and raised in Scottsdale. I know. I went to Scottsdale, Saguaro. I grew up there. Like I
Yeah,
miss it
yeah,
every day living up here in Connecticut, where ESPN is headquartered.
yeah.
Let me see if I get the story right. So Kenny recruited you while at Oregon because you were the Oregon Offensive Player of the Year. Did you guys have a relationship in recruiting from when you were playing high school ball in Oregon?
So he was my first offer when he was at Florida State. And we
Okay.
really didn't talk after that when he was at Oregon. And then we didn't talk until I hit the portal out of Michigan State.
And then that conversation went in, and how did that conversation start?
It's like, it was like, hey, I recruited you a few years ago, but there was nothing more to it. I wasn't worried about that too much.
What has he meant to the program?
Was he meant everything? I mean, culture, bringing in the guys. He brings in players that fits him in the culture, which is, a recipe for success. You look at our season last year and we don't do what we do without the personalities that we have. If you take the same player and put a different personality, in that player, then they're not going to have the same success that we had as a program and as a team. So he understands who he is, who he needs to recruit, the type of people that want to be here, and then we go from there.
Yeah, when did you know? Because I talk to players and coaches, and they kind of have that tipping point when they knew something special was happening. When did you know last season? And the season really started just kind of ho hum. When did you know something special was developing?
I'd probably say, we kind of felt it a little bit after the Utah game, but then I got hurt. And then once I came back and we played Oklahoma State, we really started rolling as a team. We went there and just played really, really, complete football on all aspects of the game, and we just kind of started rolling from there. And then Kansas State, and then and then we played BYU, and it was like, well, this is probably to get into the Big 12 championship, and then won that game, and then it was like holy crap, we're really doing this. It was like each week we really didn't know how good we were. We were just getting better and better, and it was crazy to see just the growth that we were having and just how far we could really go. And, it was a week to week thing.
Was it a belief? Because when you look at each week, I mean, you guys had talent. Tice was great. We'll get into Skattebo in a minute, but how much belief was permeating in that locker room and at practice when this thing is happening right in front of you?
Yeah, it's hard to say because we weren't talking about, winning the Big 12 since day one. We were just
Really?
talking about no, we were just talking about winning that game or winning that day. And I think that was one of our superpowers last year, was just focusing on the day at hand. So it really wasn't a major belief from the very beginning, but as the season went on, people saw what we could do. And we never mentioned it, like Dilly would never say, hey, we're going to win the Big 12 or this is our goal. That's one thing that he doesn't do. He just says, how good are we going to be today? How much are we going
Yeah.
to push each other?
I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked about Coach Dillingham. What did Cam Skattebo mean to Arizona State football?
Yeah, I mean, you talk about a player that is just so special in terms of, not only the plays that he makes physically, but the way that his presence is felt on the field, the physicality that he brings and sets a tone, the comfort that he gives teammates. I would just be in the backfield just talking to him the whole time, and it was super fun because the way that he views the game is so special. He's such a brilliant mind, and he views it so unique. So it's like, when I'm talking to him, you see how creative he is And, because for me, I have to stay pretty on schedule and,
Yeah.
get the offense to flow and all that. And then he's saying some creative stuff back there. And, we're in practice, messing around, handing the ball off, pitching it back to each other, tossing it, going out for a fake pass and stuff like that. And, that's a super fun player to play with. And, so his mind and physical ability just brought so much juice and passion and love for the game that it's so infectious.
What is your favorite Cam Skattebo story that just kind of puts him into perspective?
I'd probably say I'd say so throughout the season we would go in wildcat packages in practice, and he would run the ball, and then I'd make a move, and he'd throw it to me when we weren't supposed to, and our coach was like, don't do that in the game, da da da. And we'd always mess around. We'd say, we're probably going to do it, which is pretty funny. And so in practice we do that all the time. So we're playing Iowa State and we're running wildcat, and I'm out at wideout, and there was no hole, so he started running backwards, and he just starts running like 20 yards back. And I'm looking over there like, what is going on? It's 1st and goal. We can't lose yards. So, but he knows I'm out there at receiver, and the whole week we've been saying like, I'm gonna run a slant and he's gonna throw it to me. But the fact that he didn't throw it to me originally, I ran back to block for him to reverse the whole field, and I was gonna crack block someone, and hopefully he got the edge and could go. But he knew where I was, so he just threw the ball up where he thought I would be. But I was coming back to block, and just the fact that he knew where I was supposed to be, and I didn't think that he was thinking like that. It was crazy to see him actually throw the ball. Luckily, it didn't get picked. But
yeah, how did Kenny handle that?
I think he was just at a loss of words. He didn't really know what to say. I think they showed him on the camera after on the sideline. He was just sitting there like stone face, and they said in the box up there they were just completely quiet, like nobody said a word, and then they just moved on to the next play.
What is he like in the huddle? What was he like in the huddle during these games, during that stretch run that really defined the season?
He's not saying too much. I don't think anybody should say too much in the huddle.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say he'd say certain things like, he'd call up players or call up the O-line and be like, I really need you guys here. One thing that I saw him do that I'd never seen anybody else do is he would kind of tell the O-line how to block. Like, he's not the O-line coach, but he's telling them how to block because he knows how he likes to run through certain gaps and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty special. And I'm like that with my receivers and, in terms of pass pro for the O-line, but I've never told somebody how to run block.
Yeah, but
so,
he's just a leader on the field with everything.
Yeah, he just sees the game so well that, he's able to say certain things and it makes sense and it works. So people listen to him.
So I'm curious, when you guys were watching film on Sundays and some of these runs that he would have where you'd think a defender would have him bottled up and then he would somehow, some way find a way out of it and either score a touchdown or get a 25-yard run when it looked like a 2-yard run. What was film like the next day with him? The film room, how did everyone react?
We don't really like boast each other up like that. We got to keep everybody humble. So we're not sitting here saying you're the best thing since sliced bread, But obviously when a great play is made, I'll look at her and be like, that was a good play. It could be,
I do have to ask because it was, again, one of the most memorable games in college football. And I started the show that way, that Texas game. When you're in that game and you're in the moment and they're up quick, I think it was 14-0, but before you could blink. And then the game starts progressing into what it becomes. What was that like for you on that sideline as that game completely switched into a point where you guys had a chance to win?
Yeah. I mean, the whole time I was like, we just need one play to pop. Like we need a big play, or we really didn't even need a huge play. We were playing pretty well. We needed to finish in the red zone, which we weren't. And that was the most frustrating part, is we just needed to finish in the red zone. And so we would, we'd get there and then it wouldn't work. And that was frustrating. And then, I remember there was about 6 minutes left, and I was looking at everybody and I was like, yo, we go down and score right now and get a stop, we'll get the ball back. And y'all think this game's over, you're crazy. And we went out there and scored, pretty quick. And that got the juices going. And then we got a pick, came out and then scored again. And it was just like, it just fell into our laps how it was supposed to. And It was the craziest high, and you just get everybody to believe that that's even going to happen in the first place. And, then you always got a chance if everybody believes.
How long did it take to get over it?
The loss.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm still over it.
Yeah. Why?
There's just so many plays that could have been made, out there. And, it was like, you always have plays that you're supposed to have made in the game or that's supposed to happen, but there was so many that it was ridiculous, um, on my part, on other people's parts. And
Yeah.
it just felt like, we were just so close so many times that there should have been one of those things that went right and that would have changed the entire game, so it just felt like that. And just gives me all the more belief this year that, it's plenty possible to go above and beyond what we did last year, but that can't be the focus every day.
Yeah, 16 returning starters. That's among the most in the country. So when you talk about that foundation, how do you use last year, what happened in the Texas game to set as a foundation now when you guys come back to camp?
Yeah, I think that I actually believe that you shouldn't really talk about it too much. You shouldn't talk about last year or
Sure.
what your expectations are this year. I think it just goes back to, you'll bring it up every now and then and say like, hey, we can't let this happen again because, by putting in the work. So that's how you get people to work out harder and buy into the process more. But you don't implement it and say like, hey, we did this last year. We're going to do this year because you don't know. And, a lot of things fell into our lap last year. And, we squeaked some games out. So, like I said, I think the biggest thing is just locking in every single day and not worrying about anything else.
And where have you tried to get better this offseason?
I mean, every aspect of the game always, but I think the biggest thing is that I took huge leaps in this offseason was my quick game stuff in spring ball. I was really dialed with protections. I see the run game way better and get us into better plays and than just, not forcing the ball down the field and getting to the check down on first and second down passing and going to the next play.
So, and your weapons, everyone's going to want to know who's going to replace Cam Skattebo. How does the offense in your mind stack up with its skill position at running back? I know Jordan Tice is going to come back from an injury. You get Kanye Udo, a transfer in from Army. Relivit Brown, he's a kid that we haven't seen much from yet. How do you feel about the offense coming into the 2025 season?
I feel great. I mean, it's my second year in the system. I'm 10 times better than I was last year. JT wasn't playing at the end of the year. We got some new wideouts that can really go, and we're just going to be a little bit different of the team. We're not going to have to ground and pound it on first and second down all the time. We're still going to have that identity of running the football because that's what we do. But we just got to play to our players' strengths, and I feel like we're in a really good spot.
Who are you most excited about? I'll ask you this way, because kind of last year, I mean, Cam fills that bill, but you do as well. You kind of just burst onto the national scene and popped, and people got to learn more about you. Who do you believe is set up on your team to kind of have the same season?
A lot of guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't just say one guy, Jaron Hamilton, Malik McLean, Kyson Brown. I think Relivit Brown also, can really pop. And, we got a bunch of guys. So we're gonna see, everything's fun in practice and you can play really well in practice, but once the lights come on, we're gonna see who really turns on.
All right, so we're going to end this with some rapid fire. And again, being from Arizona, going to Arizona State, I'm qualified to ask these questions, and they'll be fun. But I'm going to start with Kenny Dillingham. How many energy drinks, coffees, or Red Bulls does he have every day?
I don't know if he has any, maybe one coffee, but that's just how he's wired.
What's the funniest thing that he does? What's the biggest thing that no matter what, what's his crutch? What's he say? What's the one thing he always says over and over?
Oh, I don't know if he has a phrase that he says that's funny, but I think just the way that he goes about the team meetings, he'll just always call out somebody and say something about them, and that always gives everybody a laugh.
It's amazing how much energy he has. So he just points at a player and goes for it?
Yeah, I mean, you're never safe. If you posted something on TikTok, he'll put it up on the screen and make fun of you, or he'll put a picture of me and say I look like Justin Bieber and stuff, you know. So it's just funny stuff like that.
What Arizona State quarterback have you been compared to most?
Probably Jake Plummer.
Yeah. What is and have you guys had a chance to meet and talk?
Yeah. We text all the time, and you know he's got a business that he does, and you know it gives me some supplements to help my body recover and stuff. So that's my guy.
Yeah, and I mean there are striking similarities from your guys' ability to get out of the pocket, get out of trouble, use your legs to create bigger plays. It really is remarkable seeing. And he was there at the game on the sidelines, and from where I was, relative to seeing, I could see him reacting to every play you made, and it was fun to watch as someone who's grown up watching Arizona State football. What's the one thing you love most about Tempe?
I'd say just the scenery.
Yeah.
In the weather. I mean, that's the best part about it. It's beautiful.
What's the one thing you like least about Tempe?
I'd say it's a little dry.
Yeah, you're up from Oregon, man. You like those green trees and you like the humidity.
Yeah, no doubt.
If it's 10 p.m. and you're hungry, where are you going to grab something to eat?
10 p.m.
Like, where's your late night spot?
I like to order from Moxie's.
Okay.
It's like in the mall, but I'll just DoorDash it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when's the first time you got recognized as Sam Leavitt, Arizona State quarterback, walking around campus?
First time? Oh. Right as I got named starter, and maybe at West 6, I used to live out there, so just in the elevator or something.
There was no like, hey, is that Justin Bieber on our campus?
No, nothing like that.
I said, listen, good luck this season. We're looking forward to watching you play again in Arizona State football, play again